Berlin, December 11, 1941. Adolf Hitler strides to the podium in the Kroll Opera House, the temporary home of the Reichstag, and raises his right hand. Outside, snow falls on a city already deep into its third year of war. Inside, Nazi deputies rise and salute. Hitler is about to declare war on the United States of America, formalizing what has been creeping toward reality for months. Germany is now at war with virtually the entire world. If you expect him to show even a flicker of doubt about taking on the Soviet Union, the British Empire, and now the industrial giant of America all at once, you will be disappointed. Hitler's speech that day is not a moment of reckoning. It is a performance of absolute certainty, a defiant rejection of reality itself. "We will always strike first," he declares, his voice rising. "We will always deal the first blow." For days earlier, Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. Hitler learned the news at his headquarters in East Prussia, where he was directing the faltering invasion of the Soviet Union. According to witnesses, he was jubilant. He paced the room, slapping his thigh, barely containing his excitement. "Now it is impossible for us to lose the war," he told his staff. "We now have an ally who has never been vanquished in 3,000 years." This is a delusion at the heart of everything that follows. Hitler genuinely believed Japan's entry into the war was good news for Germany. He saw Pearl Harbor not as a warning about underestimating American industrial power, but as confirmation that his enemies were finally revealing themselves for the climactic battle he had always envisioned. The Tripartite Pact, signed the previous year, required Germany to support Japan only if Japan were attacked first. Pearl Harbor was the opposite. Japan had struck first. Hitler had no obligation to declare war. His military advisors, those few who still dared speak frankly, urged caution. Germany was already fighting on two massive fronts. The Wehrmacht was freezing outside Moscow. Supply lines were stretched to the breaking point. Winter had arrived early and brutally. German tanks refused to start. Soldiers wrapped their feet in newspaper for lack of winter boots. And now, Hitler wanted to add America to the list of enemies. But Hitler saw it differently. In his mind, America was already at war with Germany in all but name. President Roosevelt had been supplying Britain through Lend-Lease. American destroyers escorted convoys across the Atlantic. The U.S. Navy had orders to shoot German U-boats on sight. In September, a U-boat and an American destroyer had exchanged fire near Iceland. In October, a U-boat torpedoed the USS Reuben James, killing over 100 American sailors. For months, Hitler had restrained his admirals, ordering them not to provoke America, not to give Roosevelt the instant he needed to bring the United States fully into the war. Now Japan had done it for him. Now he could declare war first, control the narrative, appear strong rather than reactive. He could frame it as Germany's choice, not America's. So on December 11th, he stood before the Reichstag and delivered a speech that lasted nearly 90 minutes, a masterpiece of self-justification and historical revision. He blamed everything on Roosevelt, on Jewish warmongers, on the bureaucratic democracies that had supposedly encircled Germany. He recounted every grievance, real and imagined, going back to Versailles. He portrayed Germany as the victim force to defend itself against a vast conspiracy. "I can only be grateful to Providence that it entrusted me with the leadership in this historic struggle," he said, his voice dripping with messianic conviction. He spoke of Roosevelt with contempt, calling him a puppet of Jewish interests, a warmonger who had violated neutrality at every turn. He claimed Germany's declaration of war was an act of self-defense, a preemptive strike against inevitable American aggression. The deputies cheered. They always cheered. But if any of them understood what had just happened, they gave no sign. Germany, a nation of roughly 70 million people, was now formally at war with the Soviet Union, nearly 200 million people, vast resources, and a willingness to absorb casualties that would break any Western nation. The British Empire, spanning a quarter of the Earth's surface, with populations in India, Africa, Australia, Canada, and dozens of other territories, and the United States, 130 million people, industrial capacity dwarfing Germany's, and resources so abundant it could supply its allies while building its own war machine. Add the governments in exile, occupied nations, resistance movements, and smaller allied powers. The list of Germany's enemies now included virtually every major power on Earth except Japan and Italy was more liability than asset. Yet, Hitler did not frame it this way. In his mind, this was not Germany against the world. This was Germany finally freed from restraint, able to fight its true enemies openly. He had always believed in total apocalyptic struggle. Now he had it. What he refused to grasp was that wars, they are won by mathematics, production capacity, population, resources. And the mathematics as of December 11th, 1941, were catastrophic for Germany. In 1941, Germany produced roughly 6,000 aircraft. Britain produced over 20,000. The Soviet Union produced over 15,000. America, just ramping up, would produce over 26,000 in 1942, and the numbers would climb from there. By 1944, America alone would produce nearly 100,000 aircraft in a single year. Steel production told the same story. Germany produced around 30 million tons per year. America produced over 80 million. The Soviet Union, despite losing huge industrial areas, still managed around 18 million. Britain added another 13 million. Germany was outnumbered, outproduced, and out-resourced. The only question was how long it would take for this reality to translate into military defeat. But Hitler had never been interested in reality. He operated on belief, on will, on a conviction that determination could overcome material disadvantage. This was not entirely insane. Germany had overcome material disadvantages early in the war through superior tactics, training, and operational art. But there are limits. You can overcome a 2:1 disadvantage with better tactics. A 3:1 disadvantage if your enemy makes mistakes. But 10:1 or 20:1. At some point, quantity has a quality all its own. The tragedy is that Hitler never had this realization. Not in December 1941, not after Stalingrad in 1943, not after D-Day in 1944, not even the bunker in April 1945. With Soviet shells falling on Berlin and the Reich reduced to rubble, his statements followed a consistent pattern. When things went well, it was because of his genius. When they went badly, it was because someone else failed: his generals, the weather, saboteurs, traitors, the weakness of allies, the cowardice of subordinates. He never blamed the fundamental strategic insanity of fighting the entire world at once. In late 1941, as the invasion of the Soviet Union stalled outside Moscow, he fired his top generals and took personal command of the army. Anyone can do the little job of directing operations in war, he told his staff. In 1942, as the war expanded across North Africa, the Atlantic, and deeper into the Soviet Union, he spoke constantly of final victory. When the offensive bogged down at Stalingrad, he refused to allow retreat. Over 200,000 German soldiers were encircled. He forbade breakout attempts and promised air supply that never materialized. In February 1943, the survivors surrendered. Hitler declared 3 days of national mourning and praised the defenders as heroes who died so Germany might live. Privately, he raged at Field Marshal Paulus for surrendering instead of committing suicide. He never acknowledged that the disaster resulted from his own orders. Throughout 1943, as the Allies closed in from multiple directions, Hitler's public statements remained defiant. He spoke of secret weapons that would turn the tide, of Germany prevailing through superior will and racial strength. He blamed setbacks on Italy's surrender in September 1943 and on his general's failure to execute his plans. Joseph Goebbels recorded Hitler's private moods in his diary. There were brief moments of pessimism, but Hitler always returned to optimism, to belief in ultimate victory. In June 1944, the Allies landed in Normandy. Hitler initially believed it was a feint and refused to release panzer reserves. By the time he realized it was the main effort, it was too late. In July 1944, German officers attempted to assassinate him with a bomb. He survived and responded with a purge. Thousands arrested, hundreds executed. He interpreted his survival as proof that Providence had chosen him for victory. By late 1944, Germany was being crushed from all sides. The Red Army advanced through Eastern Europe. The Western Allies pushed toward the German border. Italy was lost. The Luftwaffe was destroyed. Cities were reduced to ash. Oil production collapsed. The Wehrmacht ran out of fuel, ammunition, and men. Hitler's response was one last offensive in the West, the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. It initially gained ground but ran out of fuel within days. By January 1945, it failed completely, costing Germany irreplaceable men and equipment. Hitler still spoke of victory, ordering the formation of divisions that existed only on paper, moving phantom armies on maps. In his final weeks in the Führer bunker, with Soviet forces closing in, Hitler dictated his political testament, blaming the international jury and the German people for proving unworthy. He issued the Nero Decree, ordering the destruction of Germany's infrastructure rather than letting it fall into Allied hands. Albert Speer quietly sabotaged it. On April 29, 1945, Hitler married Eva Braun. On April 30th, he shot himself. He never admitted that declaring war on America was a mistake, that invading the Soviet Union while fighting Britain was insane, or that Germany could not defeat the combined might of half the planet. So, what did Hitler say when he realized Germany was fighting the entire world? He never did realize it. Not in any meaningful sense. To realize it would have required admitting he had made a mistake, and Hitler was constitutionally incapable of admitting mistakes. From his perspective, every decision was correct. If Germany was losing, it was because of external factors, not because his strategy was flawed. This is why his statements remain consistent. Inevitable victory in December 1941, after Stalingrad, after D-Day, in the bunker. The delusion was complete. He surrounded himself with yes-men. The Nazi system rewarded loyalty over competence. Those who brought bad news were dismissed or worse. Hitler had always been a gambler who believed audacity could overcome odds. It had worked before Rhineland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, France. So in December 1941, he doubled down again, betting his enemies would blink first. This time they did not. The Soviet Union sacrificed 27 million lives. Britain endured years of bombing. America mobilized its vast industry and crushed Germany under sheer production. Hitler could not, or chose not to, see it. To see it would mean admitting he had led Germany into a war it could not win. His ego would not allow that. When he stood before the Reichstag on December 11, 1941, and declared war on the United States, he was declaring that Germany would fight the entire world and win. He believed it. His deputies believed it. Much of the German people believed it. They were wrong. The mathematics were inexorable. The war was effectively lost the moment Hitler declared war on America, though it would take 3.5 more years and millions more deaths for reality to become undeniable. In the end, Hitler's answer to fighting the entire world was defiance, doubling down, insistence that what could overcome reality. That belief could trump mathematics. He was wrong, but he never admitted it, not in 1941, not in the years that followed, not even at the end. What Hitler said when he realized Germany was fighting the entire world was, "We will win." He said it until the moment he pulled the trigger. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying thing about him. Not just that he was evil or ruthless, but that he was so completely divorced from reality that he could lead his nation into total destruction while genuinely believing, until the very end, that he was leading it to glory.